Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Well, who'd have thunk it? It seems that our blithering idiot of Prime Minister has firmly planted his feet down on one side of the trans fence. He's actually come out today, and I believe he's the first major politician to actually make a statement coming out with how he feels about the issue and, basically saying this is how it is, this is what I believe, and letting people know. And he hasn't attempted to spin or to prevaricate or to play the field, play the numbers, call it what you will. He's actually come out and made a statement. I'm actually amazed because he's normally a blithering idiot. But this time, of course, he's chosen wisely. Let's go straight into the piece and have a look. So here it is. And yes, our Prime Minister has come down on one side, as I mentioned, and he has absolutely stated categorically that he doesn't think that biological men should be competing in female sporting events, which is what we've been saying for a long time now. And he goes on to say that children are not competent to make decisions about their gender, as a trans row threatens to split the Tories. Actually, it probably doesn't threaten to split the Tories. It probably threatens to annoy a very few minor backbenchers. But let's look at the piece in full. So we've done the headline, the byline here. The Prime Minister said that parents must have involvement at the very least in their child's gender decision. And this is excellent because at the moment, particularly in Scotland, a child can make a decision without referring to the parents. The school will abide by that decision. And in fact, the medical profession can begin treatment without parental consent, which is not just wrong on any kind of ethical level, but I believe is in contravention to both medical ethics, not just sort of human morality, but I think it actually breaches medical ethics and also the Geneva Convention. Because if a child is not capable of giving consent in law and you treat him with medication, you're giving non-consensual medicine, which actually is in breach of the Geneva Convention. His intervention came as he faced a Tory split over a ban on conversion therapy after 2 U-turns last week. He's saying that conversion therapy for gay people is wrong and going to be banned, but not for transgender. And I think he's right there, because you can't have it both ways. If you're gay, you're gay. And it's wrong to change someone from being gay. But trans isn't a sexual issue. It's a psychological issue. And how do you treat psychological issues? You seek therapy. So it's a very difficult position. We don't say that someone is gay has a mental condition, whereas gender dysphoria definitely is. Anyway, we move on again. He said to broadcasters today, "I don't think that biological men should be competing in female sporting events." We finally have a politician with balls. So we'll jump into the article in full here, as indeed he has, as it says. Boris Johnson jumped two-footed into the row over trans rights today, as he said biological males should not be allowed to compete in female-only sporting events. Not allowed. So therefore, he's looking at legislation. The Prime Minister also said that parents should have involvement at the very least in decisions made by children to alter their gender. Actually, the decisions should be made by the parents, because until they're 18, children are not competent. He made his weighty, or at least, until I would say more 16 rather than 18. I know in Britain we have a sliding scale of competencies. You can ride a moped at 16, you can drive a car at 17, you can get married at 16, you can do just about anything at 18. You can have, you can't smoke a cigarette till you're 18. You can go in a pub at 16, as long as you don't drink. You can go to a restaurant and drink wine at 14. We don't have a cut-off that says child and then the next day adult. So I think, yes, they may be having a look at where medical ethics would say, okay, you can make the decision at this age and that age or whatever, but certainly not as a child by any definition of what most people would consider a child. I would suggest 14 minimum. The only thing there is they'll all moan at 14 you're already post-puberty. Well, that's tough, isn't it? Anyway, carrying on with this, he made his weightiest comments so far on the issue as he faced a Tory split over a ban on conversion theory. Don't be thinking it's a huge split, a rift down the middle. It really isn't. It's here's the core of the Tory party, and here's a little bit over here going that way. The PM backs making the practice of trying to force gay people to become heterosexual illegal, but he has refused to extend the proposed ban on the practice to trans people, despite opposition from backbench MPs and the Scottish Tories. Yes, and as I said, it's because being gay is a sexuality, being trans is a gender dysphoria, and is therefore a mental condition. Are you saying that you are going to ban therapies for mental condition? And if so, where do you draw the line? Speaking during a visit to a hospital in Welwyn Garden City, the Prime Minister was asked about the therapy before launching into his views on trans people in general. He said, "I don't think that it's reasonable for kids to be deemed so-called Gillick competent to take decisions about their gender or irreversible treatments that they may have. I think there should be parental involvement at the very least." That's right, you will have a child who can be pressured by the trans lobby. Now, remembering a child may not be trans, may be phase that they're going through, may be sexually confused, gender confused, gets hooked by the trans community, pressurised, pushed, coerced, Stockholmed, decides, okay, I'll go and do it, has breast implants, has the balls cut off, starts taking drugs. 5 years later, down the line, oh my God, I'm not trans, I'm actually male. What the hell have I done? I might as well go and kill myself. And that sounds extreme, but this has happened and will continue to happen because the trans lobby don't care about the individuals. They don't care about the children. They're building their base. This is all about numbers and rights. And for them, the more they have on their side, the louder their voice. And if some die on the way, as far as they're concerned, so be it. And if they can destroy lives, they don't care. They do not care so long as they get their voices heard. This tiny minority of mentally ill people. So, the Prime Minister continued, "I don't think that biological men should be competing in female sporting events. We will have a ban on gay conversion therapy, which to me is utterly abhorrent. But there are complexities and sensitivities when you move away from the area of sexuality to the question of gender. I've mentioned this. There are, I'm afraid, things that I think still need to be worked out." And he's quite right, because sexuality is not a gender issue. Sexuality is sexuality, body dysphoria, mental. Labour's Angela Rayner attacked the PM's words. I'm surprised she could understand them. She's as thick as two short planks. Saying, he throws his 2 pence in, as she's throwing her 2 pence in, causes so much damage and screw the consequences. I remain of the firm view Boris Johnson is a real liability. No, love, you are the liability. You're the liability to any party that will allow you to be a member, and indeed a liability to intelligent conversation. You've got to remember that Angela Rayner is a woman who is illiterate. who cannot read and write. She left school with 0 qualifications and could count to potato. She did manage to breed at a very young age. She knew that much. She was coming on with leaps and bounds with her sex education. On the practical side, at least. And now she just sits there, smokes her fags, wears her bother boots. I tell you who she reminds me of. Kathleen Tate. She does Lauren. I'm a bothered. And that is Angela Rayner. Only without the charm. And I'm pretty sure Lauren can read. Anyway, continuing again. He faced further criticism from Tory backbenchers over trans therapy. Gay MP Elliot Coburn said the row was totally unnecessary and a massive own goal. Yeah, gay MP, not a trans MP, you know. You don't have a dog in this race. And you've got what you want. We're not doing gay conversions. Or do you think that trans people are gay? Do you think gay people are trans? Are you confusing the two? It's hard to say. Mr. Johnson also said that women should have spaces in hospitals, prisons and changing rooms which were dedicated to women. And I think what he meant were dedicated to real women, not a man in a frock. That's as far as my thinking has developed on the issue. If that puts me in conflict with some others, then we have got to work it all out, he said. Yeah, he might be in conflict with others, but he's not in conflict with probably 99.9% of the population on this one. That doesn't mean I'm not immensely sympathetic to people who want to change gender to transition, but it's vital that we give these people maximum possible love and support in making those decisions. But there are complex issues, and I don't think they can be solved in one swift, easy piece of legislation. It takes a lot of thought to get this right. It comes after controversy surrounding Emily Bridges, a male cyclist who won medals at university level racing as a man before transitioning. He has announced he will start competing in female events. Women and girls across Britain are dropping out of recreational sport because they're being pressured to compete against men. Mr. Johnson is facing stiff resistance from the backbenchers. No, not over the backbenches, from a couple of minor backbench nobodies, over a decision to allow the practice of conversion therapy to continue for trans men and women. He's not allowing the conversion therapy to continue. He's just not banning it at this time until further work has been done on the subject, because it isn't a sexual issue. In a messy double U-turn last week, he backtracked on a pledge to make the often religiously driven abuse illegal, only to swiftly revert to his original plan when faced with criticism. This is the trouble with Boris. He folds faster than Superman on wash day. Mr. Coburn, a 2019 intake MP, who was a majority of just over 600, could be out soon then, in the South London, Carshalton and Wallington seat, said the PM's decision was incredibly poorly judged. Not by most people, and you've probably just cost yourself a seat. The conversion therapy ban is about the fact that no one should be subjected to these harmful practices. But again, if it's a mental condition, you need therapy. If someone is agoraphobic, he's saying, "Oh, that's a mental. We mustn't give them conversion therapy to stop them being agoraphobic," because that's exactly what you're saying. You don't want a mental condition treated, you moron. We have a responsibility to take the heat out of these debates in recent months and years, especially on trans issues. All this builds up a worrying narrative. It is totally unnecessary and a massive own goal. Actually, it's not an own goal, and it is absolutely critically necessary, because there are women who are scared, vulnerable and abused, and nobody is standing up for them. Nobody is protecting them. There are young girls at risk of attack, and nobody is protecting them. There are women in hospitals being raped, and nobody is standing up for them. But you have these virtue signalling arsehole MPs who need to stick out a thumb and hitch a ride back to Real Street, where real people are suffering at the pointy end of this, rather than sitting in their ivory towers, protected, surrounded by their special advisors, saying, "Oh, do this, this is the woke thing to do." Screw the woke thing. Go listen to the real people. Go and listen to the people who vote for you, because they don't want it. But moving further down, it's here. It came as Health Secretary Sajid Javid defended allowing a practice to continue. When pressed on why a ban had been removed from the bill for the Queen's speech, he told Sky News, "When it comes to conversion therapy, it is absolutely right, as the government has said, that we ban the so-called conversion therapy for LGBT people. When it comes to trans, I do think that we need to be more careful." The Health Secretary pointed to the interim report written by Dr. Hilary Cass, saying she talked about how children and young people, when they say they have gender dysphoria, it is right for medical experts to be able to question that and to determine what the cause might be. Is it genuinely a case of gender identity dysphoria, or could it be that the individual is suffering from child sex abuse, for example, or could it be linked to bullying or other mental conditions? But that's not what this lobby want. They want, oh, the child indicated, look, there's a boy, he's playing with a girl. Quick, whip his cock off. That's what they're saying. Don't question him. Don't question and find out why he's thinking this. Just convert him to a girl straight away. Turn into a girl. We need numbers on our side. Make him trans. Let's get him. That's their argument. They don't want a psychiatric evaluation of children. So why? Don't sit and listen to these politicians who go, oh, it's just abhorrent, it's wrong, blah, blah, blah. Question them and ask them the question, why do you think a child should not be assessed before undergoing any form of gender conversion? Why do you want to destroy a child's life unnecessarily when it may not be a trans issue and it may be other issues? Ask them why then. And if they go and prevaricate and blubber their answer, you know they simply want to get their hands on your children. Because that's what these people are. They're like cult leaders. Why do you think religions like to get the children in young? So they can screw with their minds, convert them, Stockholm them, and then they grow up to be happy little zealots. To continue anyway, a government source said the Safe to Be Me summit, originally scheduled for June, is set to be scrapped after more than 100 LGBT and HIV groups pulled out over ministers' failure to ban trans conversion therapy. So see, here's a group, we've organised this meeting, we're going to have this meeting, and we're giving you virtually everything you want, but we've just dropped this one thing off while we await further reports. Oh, you're leaving, that's fine, off you go, we'll cancel it. Because you're idiots. This admission came as Boris Johnson's LGBT business champion Ian Anderson quit his post over the issue. Well, bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. I can see no logic in excluding trans people from legislation banning conversion therapy, he said. Let's have some empathy. No one's saying you can't have empathy, but they're not the same things. It's apples and bananas. And if you can't see that, you're too thick to be an MP. You need to resign and give your the people you represent a chance of having someone that they can vote in to represent them that's not a complete moron. In his letter to the PM, Anderson said, serving as UK's first LGBT business champion had been the greatest privilege of my life, but he had no choice to resign. Bye then, see ya, don't care. And this is it. Anyway, I'll come up. After all the verbal knots that Labour have got themselves into over the last sort of week, 10 days, I am absolutely flabbergasted that the very first MP that's come out and categorically made a clear statement about his position is Boris Johnson. It almost baffles me that he was brave enough to do it, because he's not brave enough on many things. But well done to him. I stand with him. I think most people, 99% of the population, stand with him on this. I think people who've been following my videos on this will understand that where I come from, that men should not be competing with women. I mean, I know there was other issues in there, but you know, for him to come out and state that, it is astounding. But anyway, well done to him. And let's hope that others join him. Anyway, we'll round it there. I will say that if you like what you hear and see on the channel, please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Ring the bell for notifications. Leave a like. Leave a comment, and until next time, stay safe, stay well, and goodbye.